All right, we're live, guys. Welcome back to yet another episode of the Blueprint Podcast, episode 173. In case you haven't noticed, the podcast has been growing steadily over the past couple of months, and especially on an episode like last week, I get like overwhelmingly positive responses. In case you missed it, last week's episode 172, was about how to set healthy boundaries. Now, I've come to notice that every time when I talk about the subject of dating and relationships in particular, those episodes tend to do extremely well. And the reason is because it's just one of those areas that everybody seems to struggle with, right? If you think about money and finances, dating and relationships, those are two vital aspects of our lives, yet nobody really ever taught us those things in school, right? So it's kind of like up to you as the listener to do your own research, and through the combination of personal painful experiences often and listening to podcasts and reading books, that we kind of like get to understand these subjects a bit better. So once again, thank you so much for confiding in me, for taking my messages at heart. I hope they served you in whatever way. And I always have to ask, like, if my episodes, if the podcast brings you whatever kind of value, please help me to grow this this channel of like-minded individuals by hitting the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, just sharing the Spotify playlist on your Instagram, on your TikTok, like whatever, anything that you can do in whatever way you deem necessary and find easy to support my cause, our cause, I should say, would be highly appreciated. Now, today I want to talk about the subject of forgiveness. And I want to call it the art of forgiveness, because being able to forgive people is an art. It's not so much a skill, I would consider it an art. And, forgiveness in the most basic sense means having the ability to let go of the bitterness, anger, and resentment that you have towards another individual for the wrongdoings they caused or the harm they caused towards you, right? And the misconception that I often find is that people think that they can not reconcile forgiving another person, yet not forgetting what they did to you, right? And so if you broke up with someone and you still hold resentment towards your ex, if you have been fired, or, you got into a fight with one of your siblings, best friends, just on the street, like whatever kind of negative experience you had with any given individual, and you felt like some form of injustice, the moment you start to hold on to those feelings is the moment that you're basically punishing yourself, right? And I think it was Nelson Mandela who said something along the lines of, not being able to forgive is like drinking poison and hoping that the other person dies. It's something along those lines, right? And so developing the skill of letting go basically means that you have to understand your own emotions. And I think that having the ability to forgive is one of the most powerful tools in your journey of personal development, because it allows you to focus on the present and focus on the future, right? If you're angry because of something that happened, or you're bitter towards someone because of something that happened, by very definition, you're living in the past, right? We don't want to get stuck in the past unless it's for the cause of reminiscing beautiful memories, right? And so, how can we explore this art of forgiving? Because it is an exploration first and foremost, and it's also a huge vital role in our journey towards healing traumatic past experiences, right? Like a big part of the resentment that we have towards other people is because we keep holding on to things that no longer serve us. So obviously, despite of all the benefits and positive effects that forgiveness brings, it's not an easy thing to do, right? It's very, very difficult, because our natural instinct is to go towards revenge, right? We have these vengeful thoughts. We hope that either we or karma does its work some way, somehow, right? It's just kind of like almost like a natural instinct that we have. And so being able to forgive almost feels counterintuitive. And I guess that is also one of the reasons why a lot of people don't really understand the emotion. They don't understand, like, how can you forgive someone who harmed you in such a way that you're still traumatized by it, or you feel like your life is never the same. And so the first step, I would say, is understanding why you feel what you feel in the first place, right? It really is understanding self. And, this is obviously the most difficult part in any area of personal development. It's understanding why you feel the way you feel, why you think the way you think, why you act the way you act. So have you ever thought about taking inventory of what it is that the other person did that makes you feel so upset? And you probably have. You know what they did, right? Because you're remembering yourself. But now I'm going to ask a more deeper question, is like, why are you so upset about it? What is your part of the story? And the interesting thing that I always hold on to whenever I'm in a situation like that, especially when it comes to, my intimate relationships and breakups, etc., because those are the ones that tend to hurt us the most. My mom always taught me, like, it doesn't really matter how thin you bake a pancake. It'll always have two sides. And the problem that a lot of us have, like, we never tend to question our side. We always want to point the finger. We always want to blame. And it always takes two to tango, right? So what is your part in the story? If you're so upset, that's all right. But like, why are you lingering on it? Like, why do you keep holding on to it? And so it all comes down again to having a sense of perspective, a sense of awareness, and a sense of personal accountability. And that takes work, right? Moving on, forgiving, it takes work. And, recently I made this video on how I experienced 2022, right? If you haven't watched it, go on my YouTube. It's called Hisham's Blueprint. And I think the name of the video was like, my confessions, how I experienced my personal experience on 2022. And one of the things that I talked about was how I dealt with my breakup and how I dealt with, my bitterness, my resentment. And one of the things that I did was actually carving out a small window. I called it the 15-minute window to just sit by myself. No fucking screens, no laptop, no nothing. Just me, myself, and I, my own dark thoughts and emotions. And actually deliberately take action towards forgiveness. Which basically means that forgiveness, it's a choice, right? You decide whether you want to forgive something or someone. And that doesn't mean that you won't have to deal with withdrawals and setbacks. It just means that your intention of trying to move forward by letting go of the wrongdoings of someone else is there, right? You have to set the intentions. And so once you're ready to forgive, you also have to learn the art of self-compassion, right? Because forgiveness is not only towards other people, but also towards ourselves. Because, for example, if you have been cheated on, usually there's like two sides to it, right? It's the person who cheated that you're super angry with and extremely pissed off at, but also at yourself. You're angry at yourself because you felt like you could trust the other person. So you're upset with yourself for misjudging another person's character, right? And so it also involves a lot of self-compassion. And so there is this really interesting paradox in personal growth that I tend to hold myself onto, which is, on the one extreme, you have to be extremely fucking accountable. You have to hold yourself to an extremely high standard. But at the same time, on the extreme opposite of it, is you really have to learn self-compassion. You also really have to learn to not beat yourself up. And a lot of people have a hard time balancing these two out, right? They don't really know how to reconcile extreme accountability with extreme self-compassion. They don't know how to reconcile, extreme steps outside of the comfort zone with extreme steps of security and the knowing. They don't know how to navigate, the mistakes of themselves as well as the mistakes of the world around them, and to just bury those mistakes where they belong, which is in the past. And so just understanding that forgiving is something that you do for yourself and not so much for the other person probably allows you to get there a bit, right? Because a lot of us, like, we think when we want to forgive someone, like we're doing them a favor. This is not a matter of favoring the other person. I am not saying that you should not learn from your past mistakes. I'm not saying that you should get best buddies again with your best friend who betrayed you. I'm not saying you should get back with your ex again. I'm not saying any of those things. I am saying is like, understand where another person may be coming from. Understand that things just they go the way they go. And this is really interesting, by the way, because we fail to understand that we're all just flawed human beings. If you're being really honest right now, if you really think about it, think about how your personal insecurities, your personal bullshit, your personal needs caused you to harm another person, caused you to lie, caused you to cheat, caused you to call in sick when you weren't sick, caused you to, I don't know, do whatever XYZ that you shouldn't have done, then maybe all of a sudden, once that realization really hits you, you will develop the ability to become a bit more compassionate. Because let's be honest, none of us is perfect. We all fuck up. I fuck up. I betrayed people. I did stupid shit. I did things that I regret. And, the only thing that I'm doing is trying to get better every day. And sometimes, most of the times, I would argue that works. And sometimes it doesn't. It's part of the fucking journey, right? We're all just here trying to survive. And when I say survive, I don't even mean that in the physical sense. I mean that in the mental sense, in the emotional sense. Because we all have baggage. We all have crap that we have to deal with from our past, right? And so forgiveness, again, is the art, again, not the skill, but the art of letting go of what no longer serves you and being able to put those things into perspective and bury them where they belong, which is in the past, right? And so, it is, I guess, like a lifelong process. It requires a shit ton of patience. Obviously, it's ups and downs, but I know you can do this, right? I wouldn't be hosting this podcast if I thought that my audience wasn't capable of learning those things. Like, these are all skills and tools and arts that you can adopt, that you can develop, but you have to decide right now to like I said, to decide that you want to forgive something. So for this specific episode, I want you to think of those things that you're really angry about, and whether that is towards another person, towards a specific situation, because it doesn't always involve people, or towards yourself. What are the things that you feel upset about, angry about, bitter about, resentful towards, and what can you do to let go? What I want to give to you is take the 15-minute window, 15 minutes in which you're going to sit still for the next 7 days. I'm going to challenge all of you, if you're watching this right now, 15 minutes each day in which you're sitting on the couch or on the floor or on your bed, not laying down, sitting, no screens, which means no laptops, no phones, no tablets, no screens, you yourself and I. Also no meditational music, none of that. Just sit still with yourself and focus on letting go, genuinely letting go of the resentment, genuinely letting go of the bitterness, and wishing nothing but good and positive stuff towards the person that you're so upset about, or the situation, or yourself for that matter. Okay, can you do that for me? Thank you very much. So, I guess that's it for this specific episode. This is like one of those things that I'm still learning as well. Like I've said this so many times, it's as much of a journey for me as it is for you right now. But anything that you can do to support this podcast, as usual, I would highly appreciate it. And, there's just so many things that I want to discuss. Actually, no, I'm not going to do this right now. This one is for the next episode. I already have the next subject in mind. It's probably going to be kind of like a spin-off, a part 2, but I will get back to that. But for now, in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy. Let's get it.